That's how it all started. Just a few whispers, some speculation, and now here we are, facing what may be Meghan Markle's most damaging revelation yet. Once the global icon of empowerment and compassion, Meghan built her brand on kindness and authenticity. But now, behind the glittering smile and emotional interviews, insiders are revealing a version of Meghan the public never saw, the one allegedly hiding in plain sight behind palace walls. It all started with murmurs, whispers of tension behind the scenes, the occasional nickname, like Duchess Difficult, that was brushed off as tabloid nonsense. But now, former palace staffers are stepping forward with details that suggest this wasn't just gossip. They claim it was emotional manipulation, cold treatment, and a toxic environment under Meghan's leadership. The stories are multiplying, and the latest twist, leaked CCTV footage that reportedly shows Meghan going off on a staff member in a way that starkly contradicts her public persona. People close to the palace have long hinted at a different Meghan, the one that only emerged when the cameras stopped rolling. The new footage, still unreleased but described in detail by insiders, allegedly confirms what many staffers endured in silence. They say the video doesn't show someone having a bad day, it shows the mask slipping. According to accounts, Meghan's tone in the clip was not firm or authoritative. It was cold, dismissive, and completely stripped of any professionalism. Former employees now call themselves the Sussex Survivor Squad, a nickname that sounds like satire, but according to them, captures the mental toll they say they experienced. One former staffer even admitted they still wake up anxious years later, unable to shake the emotional weight of their time working under her. Many of them described Meghan's behavior as a switch. When Harry was in the room, she was warm and friendly. But as soon as he left, everything changed. The air would shift. Conversations became clipped. Instructions turned icy. There were stories of Meghan allegedly snapping at a gardener so severely that the Queen herself had to intervene. That's right. The Queen reportedly stepped in after receiving complaints, including one from the palace's own head gardener. Meghan, the public saw, was the sweet, compassionate advocate for mental health and kindness. But the people behind the scenes said they walked on eggshells every day. One insider said it didn't feel like working a job, it felt like surviving one. And Meghan's own words from past interviews have resurfaced, but they now sound more complicated. Her raw admissions of feeling suicidal during her time in the royal family, moments that moved millions, are now being re-examined. Because while she spoke about trauma, pain, and the importance of being open, insiders are questioning whether that same empathy was extended to the people who worked under her. One said it best. Meghan knew how to tell her story, but the rest of them weren't allowed to tell theirs. Then came the revelations about workplace conditions. Meghan allegedly made her team rewrite a single email 14 times, each version dismissed with increasingly sarcastic notes. Some sources say that when she walked into a room, the staff didn't just straighten up, they braced themselves. They'd assess her mood in seconds, because their day, their peace of mind, even their jobs depended on it. And the nickname Duchess Difficult? It didn't start in tabloids, it started in the staff rooms, over private venting sessions. It wasn't just about being demanding, it was about being cold, condescending, emotionally bruising. One assistant admitted she cried in the bathroom almost weekly. Another described Meghan's management style as emotional terrorism wrapped in designer clothing. It was death by 1,000 cuts, snide remarks, eye rolls mid-sentence, subtle humiliations in front of peers. And this behavior, former staffers say, followed her out of the palace. In her post-royal life, Meghan reportedly struggled to hire staff. Her new lifestyle brand, Riviera Orchard, has been trying to fill a CEO role for over 5 weeks, and no one wants the job. This comes on the heels of a number of failed projects. Spotify canceled her podcast after one season, with a top executive calling Harry and Meghan grifters. Netflix, meanwhile, quietly shelved her animated series without making a fuss. Insiders say Meghan is now considered high risk in the industry, not just because deals keep falling apart, but because of what people are hearing behind closed doors. She's reportedly micromanaging, emotionally distant, and always sees herself as the victim. According to one source from Los Angeles, Meghan doesn't want collaborators. She wants control, and that's scaring off potential hires. Being demanding is one thing, but being described as cruel? That hits differently. These weren't just awkward meetings or tense disagreements. These were deeply personal moments. One staffer said Meghan once mocked her British accent in front of others. It wasn't a joke, it was humiliating. The room went silent. Another said she was publicly ripped apart over a minor calendar mistake. I felt 2 inches tall, she explained. There was no correction, just annihilation. And these weren't isolated incidents. Multiple sources say this was a pattern, a cycle of cold remarks, subtle power plays, and emotional bruising that left people questioning their worth. HR, they said, did nothing. Harry was rarely around. And Meghan? She always had to have the final word, and the sharpest one at that. At first, her defenders argued that Meghan was simply being punished for not fitting in, that the criticism was rooted in racism, misogyny, or cultural bias, that she was too American, too outspoken, too independent for the monarchy. But now, even those who once stood by her are starting to take a second look. Because it's not just one story, it's many, and they're all eerily similar. There are reports of chaotic work environments, frantic group chats, and last-minute crises sparked by Meghan's volatile demands. One florist even filed a complaint with the Queen after being treated poorly. Another story had Meghan mocking a staffer's appearance before an event. Even her dog walkers, stylists, and interns weren't spared. A few insiders said Meghan viewed people as tools, not teammates. If you weren't useful, you were disposable. As one former royal insider put it, when you join the royal family, you're there to serve. It's not all glam, it's hard work. And Meghan, some say, liked the idea of the system, but was never built for the reality of it. Another source added that Meghan always had a plan: marry Harry, elevate her status, and eventually pivot into a new role. Something more influential, more powerful. Fans used to idolize her. But they're now struggling to reconcile the two Meghans, the polished humanitarian and the reportedly harsh boss. One moment, she's delivering powerful speeches about dignity. The next, she's allegedly berating assistants over misfiled documents or a wrong choice of flowers. Her brand was built on compassion, but now it's starting to feel like a contradiction. And if that CCV footage ever sees the light of day, the consequences could be devastating. Sources say it's not just about Meghan raising her voice. It's the expression, the tone, the disregard for someone else's dignity. It's the kind of moment that can't be spun or explained away with clever PR. There's no context that makes it look okay. One commentator called Meghan's behavior narcissistic, pointing to the way she always seems to control the narrative. But now, the narrative might be slipping out of her hands. And as that happens, Harry's silence is becoming a deafening. Some wonder where he was during all this. Was he unaware, in denial, or simply trying to protect her? Because now, his absence is raising questions of its own. People who once saw Harry as the cheeky, rebellious prince are now seeing someone quieter, more distant. One former royal aide said, "He was great at his job." But now, he doesn't look happy anymore. Another added, "Back in 2015, before Meghan, you could see the light in him. That light's gone." And the staffers? They've had enough. They've started speaking. And if their stories are true, they may finally be heard. Because for years, they were silenced. They were afraid. But now, the power dynamic has shifted. Meghan used to talk about finding her voice. Now the people around her are finding theirs. And they're not mincing words. They describe their experience not as work, but survival. They describe Meghan not as misunderstood, but as manipulative. And they don't care about NDAs or royal protocol anymore. They care about telling the truth, because the truth, they say, was buried under glossy interviews and award show speeches. What Meghan once claimed to be, a voice for the voiceless, is now being questioned by those who say she silenced them. One source said, "These things don't last forever. At some point, the truth gets louder than the spin. And if that video gets released, it won't just go viral, it'll explode. Because no amount of Netflix specials or podcast tears can undo what's on tape. And when that happens, Meghan Markle won't just be remembered as a duchess. She'll be remembered for the people she left behind and the stories they now feel brave enough to share. In the end, a smile can charm the world, but it's what happens when no one's watching that reveals the real story.